On the day of the wedding, my husband's assistant deliberately ruined my wedding dress. Furious, I demanded compensation. He knelt down crying and pleaded, "Madam, I know it's all my fault, but this dress is just too expensive. I can't afford it. Please show me some mercy and let me go this time." I looked at the damaged dress and sneered, "Since you can't pay, let's call the police." But my husband snatched my phone away and pulled the assistant close, slamming a credit card into my face. "It's just money, right? I'll pay you, now get lost." I accepted with a cold smile and turned to go to the hospital, where I terminated my pregnancy of 3 months. When I announced the wedding was cancelled, the guests were stunned. I walked out calmly, but Jack chased after me, gripping my arm tightly. "Amy, do you realize where we are? Even if you want to throw a tantrum, now is not the time." His voice was cold and filled with anger, his grip so tight it felt like he might break my bones. I winced in pain, pale-faced, looking back at him to see his disgust and impatience, which stung my heart. In the past, no matter what happened, Jack always stood by me, but not today. Faced with my grievance, he chose to protect another woman. I pulled my arm away and retorted, "You know what day it is? Our wedding. Emma ruined my dress, and instead of helping me, you're saying I'm throwing a tantrum." Jack frowned, trying to grab me again. "Emma is just a recent graduate. How could she possibly afford such an expensive dress? I can have another one sent over. The wedding is about to start, so just make do for now." I was so angry I almost laughed. This is my wedding, my dress that I designed myself after 6 months of hard work. Now it's ruined and you want me to make do? On what grounds? Jack's impatience showed as he furrowed his brow, irritation creeping into his tone. "What do you want me to do? We've prepared for this wedding for so long and the guests are here. You can't just cancel it, Amy. You're 26 years old. Can't you be less willful?" Once so in love, we now felt the pain of those words. No matter what, I was the victim in this situation, yet he blamed me with every word. I had long been dissatisfied with Emma. She joined the company in September, and by the time I knew of her existence, she was already Jack's personal assistant. They worked together every day, even traveling for business. Gifts Jack brought back from abroad always included her. Though I'd asked him about her before, he'd only said, "Taking care of Emma is normal." He even showed me their chat history, claiming she was careless and often lost things, suggesting he might transfer her to another department. But one time, while having dinner with my parents, I saw Jack confront a client who was getting Emma drunk. Without a thought for his image, he charged in and punched the client. I felt a surge of crisis, prompting me to visit the company more often, where I repeatedly caught Emma and Jack laughing together behind closed doors. Their sweet laughter was like a knife to my heart. When I opened the door, their laughter stopped abruptly. Emma jumped up from Jack's lap, hurriedly explaining, "Madam, don't misunderstand, I just fell and Jack helped me out." After she left, I told Jack that he either needed to transfer Emma or fire her. After 10 years of knowing each other, it was the first time Jack raised his voice at me. "Emma just started working. How could she possibly have any intentions toward you? You're older and more experienced, but can't you stop projecting your dirty thoughts onto others?" Jack's furious face left me feeling helpless, increasingly mirroring the present moment. For the past 6 months, every argument we had seemed to be about Emma. I stopped interfering with Jack picking up and dropping off Emma, even answering her calls late at night when she was sick. Today I didn't even want to get married anymore. "Jack, Amy, am not some cheap thing and I won't settle for a makeshift wedding dress or a second-rate wedding. If Emma is so great, just let her have this wedding." I stared at him, my gaze tracing his features, an endless sense of loss flooding my heart. Those days when we loved each other felt like they were just yesterday. How could love's shelf life be so short? Especially in the presence of a younger, prettier woman, it seemed even shorter. I decided to let go of my hopes for Jack. I was 26 and I didn't want to waste my life in a meaningless marriage. "I'm wasting my time on a man who can't be absolutely loyal," I said, shaking him off without hesitation and turning to leave. Jack called after me, "Who in Jiangqing doesn't know you're mine, carrying my child? If you don't marry me, do you think anyone else will want you?" I hesitated for a moment but quickly pushed open the door and walked out. I could hear something slam against the door, followed by Jack's angry shouts, "Let's welcome the bride." As the host's voice rang out, music began to play in the hall behind me. The wedding was continuing. I opened my phone to watch the highly publicized wedding of the century in Jiangqing. To the sound of a soft piano, Jack appeared with his bride, Emma, by his side. She wore a pure white wedding dress, linked arm in arm with Jack, a blissful smile on her face. The moment I saw the dress, the tears I had been holding back finally spilled over. It was my design, the product of 6 months of hard work and a significant amount of money. Now it was being worn by another woman, the one standing next to my husband as his bride at my own wedding. My vision blurred, tears splattering on my phone screen, and that stubborn facade I had been holding up finally crumbled. Emma's wedding dress had been altered, the damaged parts sewn together into a bow shape. She could have helped me fix this, but she chose not to. At the first sign of my trouble, she only thought about making me settle for less. Now I realized I had to accept that Jack no longer loved me and acknowledge that he had moved on. I switched off my phone and walked slowly along the roadside. Ahead lay a long, endless road, cars whizzing past me as people hurried by, while I felt alone and desolate, shrinking into a corner of the world until I might disappear. The moon hung high, casting a cold light over the earth. I suddenly remembered a day 10 years ago when 18-year-old Jack, under the same moonlight, promised me, a 16-year-old girl, that he would protect me for a lifetime. A decade had passed and I thought we would be together forever. I never imagined we would stop short on the day we were supposed to reach our happily ever after, with a bride who was not me. The phone kept ringing and I finally picked it up. "Where are you?" A familiar voice broke through and feelings of grievance welled up, causing me to cry again. "Brother, my parents died in a plane crash. At just 6 years old, I was left with my 10-year-old brother to be raised by our grandfather. When I was 16, Grandpa passed away and my brother went abroad to study. I was fostered by Jack's family. My relationship with Jack had grown from being together day in and day out, but his parents didn't approve. They thought Jack could find someone more suitable while I had no assets, having lost my parents. They altered my college entrance exam choices and sent me to a third-rate university in a remote city. Jack gave up his chance to study abroad, changed his own choices and accompanied me to school. His uncle had no choice but to send us to a well-known art college together. Back then, Jack truly loved me, openly showing his affection. Everyone knew that Jack adored his girlfriend. In college, I displayed an astonishing talent for design. My brother sponsored me and I designed a wedding dress that earned me my first income, which I used to start my own studio and brand, gradually building the capital to stand alongside Jack. We had walked through a decade of youth together, and today was meant to mark the end of that chapter. Under the moonlight, I walked for a long time until I felt that the moon had deserted me and I realized it was time to let go. This child had to be terminated. My eyes reddened as I gently stroked my belly, still only 5 centimeters along at 3 months. Despite my deep reluctance, I made the decision this child couldn't stay. Since Jack couldn't offer me absolute loyalty, I had to be more decisive than anyone else, leaving no room for any lingering connection with him. My brother held me gently. "If you want to keep it, you can. I'm here, you don't have to be afraid." I buried my face in his arms, clutching my belly tightly as I trembled with sobs. Ultimately, I found myself on the operating table for the procedure. As the anesthesia took effect and I lost consciousness, I thought of Jack and remembered how overjoyed he had been when he found out I was pregnant. He held me close, kissed me repeatedly and promised me a wedding of the century, assuring me I would be the happiest woman in the city. It was all a lie. When I awoke, I instinctively touched my belly, tears streaming down my face. The child was gone. While my brother went home to fetch clothes for me, I turned on my previously powered-off phone and saw that Jack had called several times. Just as I was about to block his number, another call came through. I hadn't intended to have any contact with him, but I pressed the button to answer. Jack's angry voice came through. "Amy, what do you want? You won't answer my calls or messages. Do you expect me to chase after you and beg?" I frowned and waited patiently for him to finish before I spoke flatly. "You don't need to beg me, Jack. We're done. The wedding was grand, the dress looked beautiful, congratulations and best wishes for your marriage." There was a heavy silence on the other end, lasting several seconds. "Do you think you're some kind of princess that everyone should revolve around you? Is it not true that you're the one who wanted to cancel the wedding over a trivial matter?" I had no choice but to let Emma step in. "Everyone is cleaning up your mess. You can't keep acting like a victim." His words dripped with blame. I wasn't upset about the dress itself. I was troubled by his attitude toward this deliberate act of sabotage. It was clear that he chose to defend and shield Emma instead of helping me resolve the issue. Faced with a problem that could easily be fixed, he opted for my compromise as his solution. "When Jack has the time, we'll go get a divorce certificate. Don't let your new wife think she has any claims," I said. Jack's tone darkened further. "You need to come home right now. With so many media watching, do you know how damaging a sudden cancellation of the wedding could be for our family's reputation? No matter what, you're still my wife and I'll take care of everything after the wedding." "Oh really?" I glanced at the television where reports of Jack and Emma filled the screen, causing my hands to tighten unconsciously. The footage showed them holding hands as they walked toward the airport, with reporters announcing that Jack had planned a romantic honeymoon for his new wife. They embraced and kissed under the cameras, Jack gently brushing Emma's hair back, his eyes full of tenderness. This scene pierced my heart and I thought of the innocent life I had just lost. But Jack was off on his honeymoon, and I wondered how he had the time to call me. If you say I'm your wife, then as your wife I demand you come back from the airport immediately. Can you do that? Another long silence followed. I waited patiently for his response and finally he spoke. I didn't expect you to be so willful. Amy, you have no right to give me orders. You either come back or stay away forever and we'll be completely done. With that he hung up the phone. I remained in position watching as the couple held hands and boarded the plane on the screen. Everyone praised the beautiful pair while I, who had once basked in Jack's love, was left forgotten in a corner, entirely overlooked. 10 years of my life spent understanding a single person and the cost felt too steep. I lay on the hospital bed, drifting in and out of sleep, replaying memories of Jack, his love for me, the promises he had made. Ultimately, I fell from the clouds into the deep sea, like a bird with broken wings, tossed by the waves until I faded away. I cried myself to sleep, waking up in tears, and after half a month of this haze I finally discharged myself. Gathering my emotions, I bought a house near my studio and started to rebuild my life. Just a couple of days later I received my first message from Jack. Still feeling angry, I smiled and decisively blocked him on WeChat and all other contact methods. My brother contacted the best lawyer, and a divorce agreement was sent to Jack's villa. The next day I received a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, it was Jack's voice. What's your problem? I've already lowered myself to contact you. What else do you want? Threatening me with a divorce agreement? Let me tell you, if you want a divorce, you'd better bring that agreement to me personally, or I won't agree. Do you have any idea how many people want to be with me, Jack? You'd better not push me to the limit, or I'll make sure you regret it after the divorce. He hung up before I could say a word. He remained self-centered, believing that no matter what, I would never leave him. It was just a divorce agreement. What difference would it make if I delivered it? I decided to cut ties completely. I didn't need to rely on anyone anymore. I took the divorce agreement to Jack's villa, but the door was tightly shut. I entered my fingerprint, but the system kept rejecting it. I tried entering the password, but that was also incorrect. When I called Jack, he directly rejected my call. Just as I was about to leave, the door suddenly opened and Emma peeked out with a smile. Come in. She stepped back, fully opening the door and inviting me in as if she were the lady of the house. I suppressed my annoyance and walked in. At that moment, I noticed Emma was wearing my slippers and I couldn't help but laugh. Jack and I had lived in this villa for 3 years and every item in it, big appliances or small decorations, was designed by me. Now, I was an outsider in my own home, wearing an ill-fitting wedding dress as a temporary stand-in for a wedding that was never meant for me. One must have self-awareness. I still held the marriage certificate and I had contributed half the money for this villa. She shouldn't get ahead of herself. Ignoring the dark expression on Jack's face, I walked straight into the living room, only to find Jack's parents seated on the couch. Their smiles froze the moment they saw me. They had never liked me, whether when I had nothing or now that I had some success. For years, I had tried to please them as if they were my own parents, but it was all in vain. They only agreed to our marriage after learning I was pregnant with Jack's child, and now with the wedding cancelled, their disdain for me had only grown. Everything was fine until this dirty thing showed up. How unlucky. Emma feigned concern as she approached. And don't be upset. It was my fault that day and it's normal for Amy to be angry. It's all my fault. Please don't be angry with her. It has nothing to do with you. Some people just can't handle a tantrum and want a divorce. Well, divorce is fine, but I'll tell you this. You won't get a penny of Jack's money. If it weren't for the fact that you're pregnant with our Jack's child, you wouldn't even have the right to enter our home. You're a jinx who brought misfortune to your own parents. After all these years of us supporting you, Jack threw you a grand wedding and you just throw a tantrum. What do you think you are? I had been at Jack's family home for 10 years, and such harsh insults had long become routine. I looked at Jack, who used to protect me whenever I was insulted, but today he sat there quietly watching me with indifferent eyes. And please calm down. It's not worth getting upset over such a small matter, Emma said sweetly, handing Jack a glass of water. I thought to myself, even if Jack really married Emma, anything is better than marrying this jinx. And please don't say that. Amy will be upset, Emma replied sweetly, but a smug smile tugged at her lips. Not at all. I'm quite happy, I shot back, finally pushing back against Mrs. Shin's insults. For years I had endured being called a jinx. Did I bring misfortune to your family? Or was it not my brother who made sure all my assets were transferred to Jack's name before he went abroad? You took everything from me, and yet you had the audacity to humiliate and make my life difficult, unbelievable. And as for the wedding you prepared? Wasn't I the one who handled all the arrangements from start to finish? I owe nothing to the Shin family. As for the divorce, I don't even care about that. As soon as I finished speaking, a sharp slap landed on my face, knocking me to the ground, my ears ringing and half my face numb. I stared in shock at Shin Tinglon, her face twisted with rage. Enough, Songji. Where's your manners? Who gave you the right to speak to my mother like that? Years of pent-up resentment finally exploded. I charged at her and returned the slap. If respect is to be earned, then that elder needs to be worthy of it. I had put up with their condescension for long enough. Divorce Jack. Right now. Whoever wants to serve can serve, I'm done. Seeing her son get slapped, Jack's mother screamed and rushed towards me. I grabbed her wrist and pushed her back. Watch your mouth, you little slut. Our Jack is doing you a favor by accepting you. If it weren't for the fact that you're carrying a Shin family child, I would have kicked you out long ago. Emma chimed in, you've gone too far. How could you do that to Tianlon? I almost forgot about her. I scoffed and slapped her too. You're on cloud nine now that you've stepped into the role of the wife, huh? Don't think I don't see through you. I don't need a man or a title as the wife of a wealthy family. This whole family is just filled with people who look down on others. Jack shouted my name in anger. Apologize to my mom and Emma, or I'll really divorce you. When that happens, begging won't help. I looked at everyone, their faces twisted with disgust and anger, and suddenly laughed. You think I came here to beg? Dream on. I pulled the divorce agreement out of my bag and threw it at Jack. I prepared this a long time ago, knowing exactly how your family operates. Jack opened the document and glanced at it, his expression darkening as he crumpled it in his hands. What are you waiting for, Jack? He's treated us like this today. Sign it and get him out of the Shin family. His mother added fuel to the fire. But Jack acted like he couldn't hear them. Ignoring the chaos around him, he grabbed my wrist tightly. I know you're angry about the wedding dress. I promised to arrange a more magnificent wedding for you. You're still carrying my child, so don't throw a tantrum over divorce, okay? Just apologize to my mom and Emma and come back. At this point, he was still asking me to apologize. I felt a stranger's fear creeping in. He used to protect me. I never had to endure such humiliation before him. But today all he wanted was my apology. What if I refuse? I shot back. Jack's mother chimed in. If you don't apologize, then hurry up and get divorced. Jack isn't unreasonable. I can offer you 1 million, but you have to give birth to the child and hand him over to us for raising. If it weren't for my upbringing, I might have said something much worse. 1 million to get divorced and give them my child? Mrs. Jack spoke with such arrogance, as if she was sure I would agree for the sake of that money. But I didn't need money. Even if I did, I wouldn't let myself become a tool for reproduction over such a petty sum. Oh, that's too bad. I already had an abortion. I paused, smiling cruelly at Jack. On the very day you and your new wife were enjoying your honeymoon. To prove my point, I had even brought the hospital discharge papers and shoved them into Jack's hands. When I loved you, I could endure all kinds of humiliation, but once I stopped loving you, you're nothing. No one can control me, especially not you. You think 1 million is enough to make me your breeding machine? Dream on. Be a man and sign it, or I'll lose all respect for you. With that, I turned and walked away, hearing Jack and his mother yelling behind me. My steps felt lighter. Breaking free from their grasp was exhilarating. After returning from the villa, I went back to my studio and took the entire team on a trip to Bali. We spent a whole half-month enjoying ourselves. During that time, I switched my phone card and all contacts, keeping only a few important connections. For those 2 weeks, it felt like I had been reborn. Every day began with the sunrise, and I finally understood the meaning of being alive. Life felt filled with hope and the future seemed bright. Once back, I dove straight into my work. My career was my passion, and I was willing to put in the effort even if it meant working hard every day.